Baruch Hashem, Boker Tov, Achayot. We are continuing our study of Shaar HaPesukim. I'm going to go back and do a little review of what we read last week with Masika Bina because it was so enriching and edifying. So here we are. So we are in Siman 2 of Shaar HaPesukim from the teachings of the Arizal and the writings of Rabbi Chaim Vital. Remember that Sha'ar HaPesukim, the gates of verses, is all about Bereshit, creation. So it is about not only the creation that we see in Bereshit of the world as we know it, but also the pre-primordial creation. So what is alluded to in Bereshit 1 and 2 is also an echo and reflection of the pre-primordial creation of everything that we understand pertaining to the Tzimtzum, which includes the shattering of the vessels, which is encoded in the secret of the seven kings, and the understanding of the cosmos as halal, the pre-primordial womb, and the kav of light, the pipe, which is the masculine element or the vessel through which the light of order and self disseminates throughout all of the world, through the birth of the Sefirot as midot, and the Sefirot themselves representing the seven kings, the death of which necessitates the creation of the world of Asiya as we know it, as I always say, the stage upon which rectification is brought about in the physical world of incarnation. So, in Siman 2, we are made privy to the secret of bringing Shabbat in the field. Now, in the Nusak Afriki and the Nusak, I know it is the Nusak of the Mekubalim, for one. I do know some Sephardic people keep some of this custom as well. So we have a custom of bringing in Shabbat 3 times in the field, in the synagogue, and at home. Bringing in Shabbat 3 times is going out into nature, into the field, and bringing in Shabbat, singing Lecha Dodi, Shir Hashirim, Tehillim, and we come then to the synagogue. And if you are not a member of a synagogue or you don't have an assembly or congregation or a holy place, your home, you make your home a holy place. You set apart a consecrated space in your home. This can be done by setting aside a sacred room for your Torah study, which, by the way, we should be doing anyway, because Esek Torah, in contrast to Limud Torah, there are 2 different levels of study of Torah, which again is why the English language can often conflate ideas and oversimplify ideas when we talk about studying Torah. In reality, there are 2 levels. There is the kind of more just intellectual level. Even if you're studying the Sod, even if you're studying the esoteric level, the mysterious and allegorical level, there's still a level of merely intellectualizing the study of Torah. This can be in your yeshivot, this can be learning from a teacher, this can be listening to speakers on YouTube. This is when you are studying for the intellectual benefit and comprehension, whereas Esek Torah is a deeper level of Torah where you internalize and embody the Torah. This is when you see yourself in the Torah on a very deep level. This is when you understand yourself, as our sages say, every Jew, every Hebrew, every Israelite is a walking Torah scroll. This is when you see yourself as the Torah and you're able to see the archetypes of the people and events in Torah in your own life. This is for those who are coming from a more psychological perspective, this is akin to what Carl Jung speaks about in terms of the collective consciousness and the living out of the myths and legends of the collective of humanity. We understand that myths and legends are not just stories and fictions. They are archetypes that we live and embody. And thus it is with the Torah. This is why it's called the living word, because we live it. And it's also kind of like Akoti Shula. We always, I talk about my favorite movie, The Never Ending Story. Anyone who's seen The Never Ending Story, for me, that's a reflection of Torah. We literally live that story. In the movie, the little boy is reading this book and he realizes that all the challenges of the protagonist in the book are actually his challenges. This is what he's going through. His development um, is the same as the development trajectory of the character in the story. And the events that are happening to the character in the story are those that have happened to him and are happening to him. And so it's this beautiful exchange and mirroring in which even the protagonist in the story gains a consciousness to realize that he is reflecting the boy who's reading him. So it's a very quantum level, beautiful story, but that is literally how we should live and embody the Torah. That being said, when you create a sacred space in your home for Esek Torah, for deep study of Torah, you can have a set apart room, even if you don't have a separate room. For me, I have a room divider, I have curtains up, and I have a special place where my holy books are, my Seforim Torah are, and I study there. And also for Kabbalat Shabbat, that's my little synagogue. You have a little table or even a little chair with your holy books on it, and you walk around it 3 times and you bring in Kabbalat Shabbat in that way. Again, with Lekadodi, Shir Hashmim, Tehillim. And then finally, you come to your Shabbat table, light your candles, and you bring in Shabbat in the home. So this is what um, Ari Hakadosh is telling us here in Siman 2, the secret of the Shabbat in the field. Also, why we bring in Shabbat in the field is to sanctify and acknowledge the sanctification of the field during Shabbat. We know that Shabbat is a set apart time. It is the time outside of time. It is the time of unification. And as I always want to emphasize, we tend to see Shabbat as a separate day from the 6 days of labor. But even in that perception, there's a duality there. So when you separate things and say, oh, the 6 days of work and then the day of rest, or the you can even see the 6 days of labor as something carnal, something that contains impurity, whether that can be in the form of the stress of everyday mundanity and everyday labors. And then you see Shabbat as something separate. Again, you're dividing pure from impure. You're dividing sacred from profane, day from night, light from darkness, etc. And while we have a place where that is, it's kedusha to do so, and that's actually our job as Israel to teach that distinction between pure and impure. But at the same time, as I always say, Torah is a story of constant separation for the sake of reunification, just like Shir Hashirim. The lovers are always separating, looking for each other, longing for each other, desiring each other, and reunifying ecstatically and blissfully. And the union is the bliss. The union is the paradise. The union is the Gan Eden. And that is also the secret of Gan Eden. The sin in the garden was the premature union before Shabbat, before that time of bliss, before that time of union where there was no distinction. And so the field of Shabbat, if you read the Siddurim, you'll always see this passage translated as the field of sacred apples. And the field of sacred apples is this field of sanctification, the field of holiness. That's the code for this orchard, the same as Pardes, the same orchard in which the four went in, including Rabbi Akiba, for those who are familiar with that story. So this is what Shabbat becomes. And Sadeh, the field, is the feminine aspect. Sadeh is Malkut. Sadeh is Nukva. And also there's a distinction between Sadeh, the field, in which seed can be planted, and Karka'ar, which is the top level soil. So even the ground itself has different levels. This is again why the Hebrew and those distinctions are so important. because the ground itself has different levels. The ground that we walk on, the ground that is literally trampled under our feet, the ground that is packed under our feet, the solid ground that has to be broken up is Karka'ar. And I'm painting this image very specifically. The unyielding ground is Karka'ar, the topsoil. And anyone who has a farm, you know that this is what the hoe is for. This is what the tools are for, to literally break up the ground, to penetrate it, and to soften it. This imagery is the imagery of femininity, of womanhood. When it says that Adam was punished to toil to bring forth fruit from the ground, this is part of that encoded imagery. Not only to physically bring food from the ground would he toil by the sweat of his brow, but also in softening the feminine. And this is why a lot of men these days, you got your podcasters talking about women are so hard and so masculinized. That's the Karka'ar. That's also the level of Lilith, the unyielding woman, because she's not open and receptive and soft to you to receive your seed, to receive your light, to receive your Torah, if you have any to give it up, you know. So the strange woman is Lilith. That's the Karka'ar, the woman who is unyielding, the woman who is Nida to you. This is also why any woman that is not your wife is Nida. Not that she's physically bleeding, but because she's unyielding. Her womb, herself, her heart, her soul is not open to receive you. And this is that level of Karka'ar versus Sadeh, which is that Malkut, that Nukva, that other aspect of the feminine that can be planted into. And so that's also what we have to guard and be careful what we're planting into, because that same Sadeh on the 6 days of labor is Sadeh Edom. It's called Sadeh Edom. And that's the field of impurity, the field of the klipot. And so what we do through the sanctification of Shabbat, through our Kabbalat Shabbat in the field, is to sanctify the atmosphere around us from that impurity, from that field of Edom, from that klipot, from that impurity. And what happens is the Sefirot ascend on Shabbat. So what we call Nahayi or Nahiyi, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod ascend to Chagat, which is Chesed, Gevura, and Tiferet. And likewise, Chagat ascends to Chabad, Chokmah, Bina, Wada'at. So all of the three, in these groups of threes, the Sefirot ascend a level. And then the space that is left, remember, Halal is the vacated space, the space that is emptied out, hollowed out, like a womb. The Halal that is left, this empty space that has been vacated because Netzachod and and Yesod have left, that empty space becomes this Sadeh of Shabbat, this sacred field, the field of sacred apples. Fill it with the light that we bring down through all of our mitzvot of Shabbat. So, that explanation being given, I can read the text. There was something else I wanted to say, but I think it'll come up in the text. So, if we're following along, Siman 2, page 20. Now, no bush of the field was yet on earth. Bereshit 2 and 5. Shabbat in the field. The idea of receiving Shabbat in the field has already been explained. The Netzach, Hod, and Yesod of the Nukva, or the Netzach, Hod, and Yesod of Asiya, since all of Asiya, this world as we know it, the lower Olam, all of Asiya is the Nukva. Thus, the Netzach, Hod, and Yesod of Nukva, Asiya, are called field, Sadeh. This is because under the Nukva, the level of Asiya is where the Klipot dwell. Remember, Lilith is called the mother of the Klipot, the husks. They are considered to be a desert without habitation and the possibility of planting any seed. As I just alluded to, Karka'ar, That uninhabitable soil, that unbreakable, unyielding soil is also called the desert, the wilderness. This is why Lilith is called like the queen of the wilderness, the queen of the desert, the unyielding soil, the soil that is dry. And even as women, we know what that means. We know what that means. We know when a man has not aroused you, and we're not even just speaking on a carnal level, but we're edifying the beauty of how the physicality, the anatomy, the biology, the chemistry, the science is validated by the Torah and vice versa. So we see physically in our body, there's such a deep key to when a man makes you feel safe and secure enough to open that true arousal. This is the Mayin Nukvin, the feminine waters of arousal, the desire to ascend, the desire to go higher into holiness. These waters of arousal are only released when the man makes you feel safe enough and soft enough to yield to him. When you don't feel safe with a man, we know physically you don't, you're dry, you know? You're and this is a huge secret that is revealed here in Torah. This is that level of Lilith. And this is where all that pain comes from. Think about it. When you have that dryness, when you're not fully aroused, intercourse can be painful. You don't feel safe with him. You feel like he's rushing you. He feels impatient. You're not aligned. You don't have the chemistry. Things ain't going right. Then, next thing you know, what does that lead to? That leads to the klipot. That leads to wasted seed. That leads to temptation. He over here, man, my woman, she can't get open. She say it's hurting her. It don't feel good. Man, blah, blah, blah. Then he's going on thinking about other women, chas shalom, wasting seed. The woman could also be doing the same. She's not feeling good with her man. And so she's thinking, or maybe has to take pleasure into her own hands, literally. So all of these things, then that's the birth of these klipo. That's the birth of these entities that come from not having that proper arousal and that proper yakud, that yakud in holiness. And because you have become yourself that karka'ar, that unyielding soil, the womb is not yielding. And there's much more that could be said, but we'll leave that there. I'm sure we all understand. They are considered to be a desert without habitation and the possibility of planting any seed. When the womb is hardened, when the woman is hardened, even emotionally, when her heart is hardened, she doesn't feel safe to be vulnerable. She doesn't feel safe to open up. She doesn't feel safe to be emotional. She doesn't feel safe to be transparent. Then that man can't plant any seeds of love, of holiness, of righteousness in her. He can't deposit his consciousness. And, there's also another aspect of that where we have to be careful who we are choosing as well, because sometimes our body is protecting us. I tell women this all the time. Listen to your body. You may make yourself believe that you love him or he loves you, but your body will never lie to you. If your body is not yielding to him, if your body is not opening to him, even if your cervix, a lot of women complain of pain in the cervix, he's hitting against the cervix, your body is telling you that he's not the one, or this is not that time. Something has to give, literally. Something has to give, something has to soften. There's something that's not safe here, where your body is not feeling safe to open up. And maybe your body is protecting you from even receiving that seed. This is also a deep secret of why many women are not fertile. And a lot of times it's not the woman that's infertile. There's also great science about the fact that a lot of times when the woman thinks she's infertile, it's actually the man's seed is not compatible with her vaginal flora, but that's another story. But also, when you are not able to be properly aroused and accept his seed, often that's your body saying he's not the one you want to literally be bound to for the rest of your life through having a child. Your body is protecting you. There's been so many cases of women who can be with one man and have unprotected sex and never get pregnant by him, and then the next man, the first time they lay down together, she's pregnant. It's not that she was infertile. It's something about her genetic code was not compatible with him. And perhaps her body was protecting her from a man who could have even been abusive to her and her children later on. Chas v'shalom. So there's so many depths and mysteries to that. But I will continue reading. When the Netzach Hod and Yesod of Asiya ascend to be included in the world of Yetzirah, a vacancy remains in the place of Netzach Hod and Yesod, leaving their places empty and hollow. It is not considered to be a habitat of people, but a field fitting for planting. The Netzach Hod and Yesod of Asiya of the Nukva or Asiya are referred to as Siach Hasadeh, the bush of the field. Since the field is their place, the Netzach Hod and Yesod of Asiya are considered to be the bush of the field. This is understood with what was explained regarding the three sons of Noach, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, whose head letters are Shin, Yud, Chet, Siach, or bush. Noach is the level of Yesod called righteous, and his three sons are the Sod of the Sephirot of Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. Shem is the level of Netzach, Japheth is the level of Hod, and Ham is the level of the Yesod of the Nukva, were the five Gevurot of Mayim Nugvin, the feminine waters I just spoke about, where the five Gevurot of Mayim Nugvin gather. They are the elements of the Esh Cham, the hot fire, regarding which Ham was named. The waste of the Gevurot went out from him, Klipot, which are called curse. This is the soul of the verse, and he said, Cursed is Canaan. Bereshit 9 and 25. Above in the Sephirah as well, the place where the two arms join the body, which are the level of Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferet, is called the Beit HaShechi, the armpit, as known. Also known as that in the beginning, Zer Ampin, who is the sixth. Also, Bereshit means the birth of the sixth. Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Zer Ampin, the sixth Sephirah. It is known that in the beginning, Zer consisted of only 6 points, but that later its Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferet ascended to become its Chokmah, Bina, and Da'at. This caused the Netzach, Hod, and Yesod to ascend as well, and they became the replacement Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferet. Consequently, a new Netzach, Hod, and Yesod were added to replace those which ascended. Thus, the current Sephirot of Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferet, called Shahi, the armpit, were previously the levels of Netzach, Hod, and Yesod, called Siach, the tree. The hairs that grow in the armpit are the sod of the hairs themselves of the Bait Erva, where it says the lower private area of a man or woman where those hairs originated before the Netzach, Hod, and Yesod ascended to the position of Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferet. This is also a secret to our hairs. There we know that somehow society has told us to shave, all of our hairs, and that could be linked to some kind of subliminal pedophilia. But there's a reason that they're there. There is a reason, and it actually protects the inner sanctum of the from the klipa. And actually, the armpit, it's actually said not only in Torah literature, but even in older classical literature, like during the Shakespeare era, that even looking upon the armpit of a woman was like looking at her naked um, genitals. So there we go. There's a reason it's there to cover something sacred. The hairs that grow in the armpit are the sod of the hairs themselves of the Beit Erva, when they were below on the level of Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. Understand this. And we will stop here because our rabbinical class is getting ready to begin. But yes, any questions? We have about 5 minutes. Any questions, comments?
This was very interesting. Very interesting. I believe you were talking about the Kar Ka'ar, if that's what it's called, and that Adam has a duty to break up that ground to soften it to be able to um, yield fruit. That was a very interesting point. Um, and I think probably kind of relevant, you know, to me at this time in my life. And then yeah, the part about the hairs covering the armpits as well. I don't, you know, I'm one to I agree with that completely. I think that it's completely weird that one would want um everything to be gone as though it weren't supposed to be there. So,
Absolutely. And
um,
one thing I did, we'll probably go into it next time, but I did forget to mention when it speaks about the waste of the Gevurot going out, those klipot, I wanted to speak about the Baal Peor. So there's also an element where our waste, everything has its purpose. Everything is kol tov. Everything is good in the sense of tov being functionality. Everything serves its purpose. And so the klipot are fed by our waste of our bodies. And this is why anything dealing with the anus, this is why we see in society nowadays this extreme fixation on the behind, literally on the bottom. Even, not only deviant individuals, but you have celebrities, public figures, even doctors, even chas v'shalom preachers and rabbis, literally endorsing this, endorsing anal activities, um, saying that everything is permitted and it's fine to explore every part of the body and the marriage bed can't be defiled and all these teachings. But that is the Baal Peor worship into which Israel corrupted itself with the Midianite and Moabite women. And we have to understand the connection with Yesod, our reproductive organs, our foundation, the Brit Milah, um, and Pei. They share the same gematria. Pei, the mouth, and the Yesod have the same gematria of 80, which is also two waters. Two waters, literally, Mem, Mayim times two is 80. And we have the feminine waters and the masculine waters. Mayim Duchvin and Mayim Nukvin. Mayim Dukhin and Mayim Nukvin, the masculine and the feminine waters. Two waters, the waters above and the waters below. This also goes into the waters that were divided by the firmament. So these two waters are linked with the mouth, which is a portal of creation, as well as the womb and the yesod of the man, a portal of creation. And when we defile it by putting it in a place of abomination and waste, we are putting the klipot, the impurity, as an obstruction to the portal through which holiness and light should be coming through. So that's another thought. I do have to run, class is starting, but I enjoyed this discussion and we will also follow up a little bit more on this next week. Baruch Hashem.